And as we speak, we've got major development coming in from China. White House official, the White House handle says that Xi Jinping and Trump have agreed that Strait of Hormuz must remain open. Xi has expressed interest in purchasing more American oil. Both sides have agreed Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. Xi has made it clear. Times now has learned that China opposes militarization of Hormuz. Every single statement there is of extreme significance given the current geopolitical scenario in which this meeting is taking place in China. The latest statement coming in where White House has said that Trump and Xi have agreed that Strait of Hormuz must remain open. Stringer, decode every single word of that statement for our viewers.
Well, first of all, Strait of Hormuz, it affects much of the world, including China, because China imports about 13% of its oil, our crude oil, from Iran. It used to, at least, till these problems happened. Now, why is the Strait of Hormuz closed? The Strait of Hormuz is closed because the Iranians have closed it and the Americans have a naval blockade on all Iranian ports. Now, Iran has said, even yesterday, that if we open the Strait of Hormuz like good boys, will the Americans lift the blockade? Because otherwise, how is it that the whole world will use the Strait of Hormuz but not us? So when Xi Jinping says the Strait of Hormuz should be open, he obviously means that it should be open for everybody. And Iran is a friend of China. That's really the first point. Secondly, this whole issue of militarization. Now, what does that mean? He obviously is referring to the blockade, the naval blockade by the Americans of the Iranian ports. Now there are 2 or 3 American carrier groups in the area. The Abraham Lincoln, the Gerald Ford, the George Washington, and so on. Now, clearly, that's a point that Xi Jinping is making. He doesn't want a militarization of that entire area. Now, that's something the Chinese are very concerned about, because so much of their oil comes through the Strait of Hormuz. And earlier, they got half a million barrels a day from Venezuela at a very, very decent rate of $30 a barrel. Now that has stopped. So China is losing money.
China is losing, of course, because it's Iran's top oil buyer as well, and has been described as a friend by China, now being looked in a new light as a mediator in this forever crisis right now. We are also joined on the broadcast by Neeraj Sharma, international expert of international relations, and Andrew K.P. Leung, international and independent China strategist. We'll come to you, but for our viewers, let's just fill you in on what has happened in the most important meeting happening in the world right now. Beijing saw the convention of 2 influential world leaders. President Donald Trump is in China for a summit with Chinese counterpart, marking the most significant face-to-face interaction between the leaders in years. Amidst grand military honors, carefully choreographed ceremonial pomp and show at the Great Hall of the People, and warm handshakes, the encounter blends personal rapport with hard strategic bargaining. Let's take a look at why it is important. Trump's outreach is making headlines not just for diplomacy, but also for the heavyweight business contingent that has gone with Trump to China. There was a lot of controversy even before that aircraft had taken off because there are all sorts of tech titans and Wall Street power players, as well as aerospace and semiconductor leaders. The lineup reflected the sectors most exposed to US-China tensions, which basically translates into trade, chips, finance, manufacturing, and critical supply chains. NVIDIA chief, whether or not he's going to be there, was a matter of controversy. There are reports in US media that said he wasn't there on the list initially, but later Trump said, "You are lying. He's very much with me on Air Force One." So What is happening inside these power talks as they are being built? Number one on the agenda could be the Taiwan talks. Xi may want reduced U.S. backing for Taiwan because U.S. by law is mandated to provide help to to Taiwan, and has even sealed a defense deal very recently. Washington signals there is not going to be any shift in its policy. U.S. wants China, on the other hand, to pressure Iran to de-escalate. Like we just said, Iran and China have been friends, trade and otherwise. When it comes to West Asia conflict, Trump hopes Xi is going to pressure Tehran on Hormuz. We just saw that statement coming in which calls for demilitarization of the Strait of Hormuz. Then comes the trade aspect. The rare earth battle, the rare earth dominant gives Xi leverage. Now the images coming in, live images of that interaction happening in Beijing. This is the visuals coming in from China. My colleague Anil Pandey is now joining us for more on this. Anil, take us through the visuals. We've just heard a statement. We've just read out a statement from the White House speaking about what was discussed between the two power leaders.
Yeah, definitely. As we know, Trump landed yesterday in Beijing. It was Beijing. But today, when he met Chinese President Xi Jinping, and the statements were different because America was thinking China will treat it very differently. But as we know, Taiwan is very important issue for China, and China always maintained that America should not help Taiwan and should not sell weapons to Taiwan. So that's the clear, loud and clear message for America. And definitely, if you want to do business with us, if you want to do business with China, so you should know how to deal. And we are not competitor. We are negotiate. We are in the phase of negotiations. So definitely the competition should be healthy, according to the Chinese media here. And we also understand the way Chinese President and Xi Jinping were meeting. We saw Donald Trump was very calm and very sound. Usually we don't see such kind of images of Donald Trump. He was very soft-spoken. But at the same time, China is firm on its stance. As we know, China is playing very pivotal role in world politics, no matter it's West Asia crisis that's happening in Iran or around the world. So definitely it's for Trump to lose something. China is definitely gonna win or gonna gain something out of this trip. It's a big issue here, and also we understand China is the world's second largest economy, as Trump has mentioned before coming to China. We are the two strongest nations on the earth. America is the number one, but he was just thinking that the trade deficit, that $202 billion trade deficit towards China is U.S. having. So that's why he has taken his CEOs to China, no matter it's Tesla CEO Elon Musk, or even a Boeing CEO, or even NVIDIA CEO is here. So definitely China also knows the importance of this relationship, also knows the importance of this visit of Donald Trump. Here we have just seen few kilometers away from where I am right now. Donald Trump and Xi Jinping met few hours ago in the Great Hall of People, and also Donald Trump visited Temple of Heaven. So definitely it's a big occasion for both the nations.
Right. So the visuals coming in are of the state banquet being hosted for U.S. President Donald Trump over there. We also have our guest joining us who will help us decode the significance of this trip that is being made by U.S. President. Remember, it has multiple facets, from West Asia to Taiwan to Trump's personal image. What does it do to that? We'll help decode that. But first, for our viewers, let's play out what have been the reactions coming in from both the leader of the US as well as the leader of China.
Welcome back to China after 9 years. The whole world is watching our meeting. Currently, transformation not seen in a century is accelerating across the globe, and the international situation is fluid and turbulent. The world has come to a new crossroads. Can China and the United States overcome the Thucydides trap and create a new paradigm of major country relations?
You and I have known each other now for a long time. In fact, the longest relationship of our two countries that any president and president has had. And that's, to me, an honor. We've had a fantastic relationship. We've gotten along. When there were difficulties, we worked it out. I would call you, and you would call me. And whenever we had a problem, people don't know, whenever we had a problem, we worked that out very quickly. We're going to have a fantastic future together. But it's an honor to be with you. It's an honor to be your friend. And the relationship between China and the USA is going to be better than ever before.
Andrew Leung, tell our viewers what we hear from Beijing. The optics is all well in place, all the right noises are being made. Is this a genuine reset that we are seeing, or is it just some sort of a temporary arrangement being done right now?
Are you asking me?
Yes, Mr. Leung.
Thank you. Well, forget about the optics. I think what's behind the optics are much more important. First of all, from President Trump's perspective, just look at his large business delegation. So these are the deliverables expected on his side. I mean, the richest and most powerful businessmen, they all want a deal. Ranging from Elon Musk on EV cars, and then Jason Wang on chips, and Apple, and so on. And also at the back of President Trump's mind is, of course, to secure a win, a definitive win over Iran, in spite of his original thought that Iran would be a cakewalk, is now proving to be a quagmire. And so I think this probably wants to use China's leverage over Iran to force Iran into a deal acceptable to him. Well, let's not forget that China has more leverage over Iran than all the bombing President Trump has been inflicted on that nation, because even though the Navy has been destroyed, the Air Force, Iran Air Force has been destroyed, Iran is not collapsing. It's still able to hold the whole world to a hostage with the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. And then Trump has got to blockade Iran's blockade. I mean, this is really a travesty. So I think that but the leverage China exerts over Iran is a simple fact that China buys 90% of Iran's oil. So, but it's also in China's interest to secure a peace over Iran, because after all, it's a very important conduit of China's energy, external energy flows. Even though, of course, in China, as much as 40% of China's electricity supply is now by renewables. But coming back to Taiwan, this flagged up foremost by China, even in advance of the visit. And what China wants is really a strengthened rhetoric, because the Taiwan card depends on some degree of strategic ambiguity. Even though the United States' position on Taiwan is governed by the so-called three communicate and three.
Honorable President Donald J. Trump, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure to host the state banquet in honor of President Trump during his state visit to China. On behalf of the Chinese government and people, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to President Trump and the U.S. delegation.
这是一次历史性访问。今年是中国15开局之年，14亿多中国人民立足于5000多年中华文明深厚基础，正在以高质量发展全面推进中国式现代化。今年也是美国独立250周年， 3亿多美国人民正在重振爱国、创新、开拓精神，推动美国发展迈向新的征程。中美两国人民都是伟大的人民，实现中华民族伟大复兴和让美国再伟大，完全可以并行不悖，相互成就，造福世界。
This is a historic visit. This year marks the start of China's 15th five-year plan for economic and social development. The over 1.4 billion people of China, drawing on the rich heritage of our over 5,000-year civilization, are advancing Chinese modernization on all fronts through high-quality development. This year is also the 250th anniversary of American independence. The over 300 million American people are reinvigorating the spirit of patriotism, innovation, and enterprise, and ushering in a new journey for the development of the United States. The people of China and the United States are both great peoples. Achieving the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation and making America great again can go hand in hand. We can help each other succeed and advance the well-being of the whole world.
55年前，尼克松总统派基辛格博士访华，中美开展乒乓外交，双方官民并举，推开了中美冰封20多年的大门，成为当代国际关系史上重大事件。此后，中美之间以很多开放合作的故事，不断书写着友谊的佳话。新形势下，我同特朗普总统顺应两国人民和国际社会期待，通过多次会晤和通话，推动中美关系保持总体稳定。
55 years ago, President Richard Nixon sent Dr. Henry Kissinger to visit China, and ping-pong diplomacy was carried out between our two countries. Through efforts of the two governments and peoples, the door that had remained frozen for over 20 years was opened, marking a milestone in contemporary international relations. From then on, China and the United States have written many chapters of friendship through mutual openness and cooperation. Under the new situation, President Trump and I, fully aware of the expectations of our two nations and the international community, have had multiple meetings and phone calls and kept China-US relations generally stable.
今天，我同特朗普总统就中美关系和国际及地区形势深入交换意见。我们一致认为，中美关系是当今世界最重要的双边关系，只能搞好，不能搞坏。两国合则两利，斗则俱伤，应该成为伙伴而不是对手。我们同意构建中美建设性战略稳定关系，推动中美关系稳定、健康、可持续发展，为世界带来更多和平、繁荣、进步。
Today, President Trump and I had in-depth exchanges on China-US relations and international and regional dynamics. We both believe that the China-US relationship is the most important bilateral relationship in the world. We must make it work and never mess it up. Both China and the United States stand to gain from cooperation and lose from confrontation. Our two countries should be partners rather than rivals. President Trump and I also agreed to build a constructive China-US relationship of strategic stability to promote the steady, sound, and sustainable development of China-US relations and bring more peace, prosperity, and progress to the world.
尊敬的特朗普总统先生、女士们、先生们、朋友们，纵观中美关系发展历程，能不能做到相互尊重、和平共处、合作共赢，是中美关系能否稳定发展的关键所在。当今世界变乱交织，中美关系承载着两国17亿多人民的福祉，关乎世界80多亿人民的利益。我们应当共同扛起这个历史重任，推动中美关系这艘巨轮沿着正确的航道平稳前行。
Honorable President Donald J. Trump, ladies and gentlemen, friends. Looking back at the course of China-US relations, whether or not we could have mutual respect, peaceful coexistence, and win-win cooperation is the key to whether the relationship can advance steadily. The world today is changing and turbulent. China-US relations concern the well-being of the over 1.7 billion people of both countries and affect the interests of the over 8 billion people of the world. Both sides should rise up to this historic responsibility and steer the giant ship of China-US relations forward, steadily and in the right direction.
最后，我提议，为中美两国发展繁荣和人民幸福，为中美关系的美好未来和两国人民的友谊，为特朗普总统以及在座的各位朋友的健康干杯！
Now please join me in a toast to the development and prosperity of China and the United States and the well-being of our people, to the bright future of China-US relations and the friendship between the two peoples, and to the health of President Trump and all the friends present. Cheers.
干杯！
Cheers.
谢谢习近平主席。
Thank you, President Xi.
现在请特朗普总统致辞。
Next, a toast by President Trump.
Well, thank you very much. This is a great honor. It was a fantastic day. And in particular, I want to thank President Xi, my friend, for this magnificent welcome. And it really was a magnificent welcome like none other. And for so graciously hosting us on this very historic state visit. We had extremely positive and productive conversations and meetings today with the Chinese delegation earlier. And this evening is another cherished opportunity to discuss among friends some of the things that we discussed today, all good for the United States and for China, and it was a great honor to be with you. Please.
感谢习近平主席。今天我们度过了非常美好的一天。首先要感谢习近平主席这一盛大的欢迎，那么也非常感谢在这一次历史性的国事访问当中非常慷慨地接待了我的代表团。那么今天早些时候，我们跟中方进行了富有成效以及具有建设性的对话。那今天晚上将是我们另外的一次机会， 能够共同再次讨论我们今天早些时候已经讨论到的一些问题，以及我们的共同利益，以及我们如何能够为全人类塑造更好、更安全的未来。
The relationship between the American and Chinese people goes all the way back to America's founding. The first American consul to China, Samuel Shaw, arrived on the first American trading ship to reach these shores in 1784. The Chinese merchants had a name for the Americans. They called their visions the New People. 2.5 centuries later, that first connection has grown into one of the most consequential relationships in world history.
美国人民和中国人民之间的友谊可以追溯到美国的建国之初。那么，美国的第一任驻华大使萨缪尔·肖已经慢慢的演变成为当今世界当中最举足轻重的关系之一。
From the beginning, our citizens have shared a deep sense of mutual respect. Founding Father Benjamin Franklin published the sayings of Confucius in his colonial newspaper, and today's sculpture, recognizing that ancient Chinese sage, is carved into the face of the United States Supreme Court very proudly.
从一开始，我们两国之间的人民就已经有深厚的相互的尊重。美国的国父本杰明·富兰克林曾经在他的殖民报纸当中刊登了孔子的《论语》，而今天在美国最高法院建筑物的门前，可以说有一个雕刻，这个雕刻就是为了向中国的这一名古代的圣人进行致敬。
The appreciation ran in both directions. Chinese admirers of President George Washington gifted a stone tablet honoring his memory to adorn the Washington Monument. It bears the words of a Chinese official who called the great general and statesman a hero among men.
这一种欣赏是相互的。那么，许多中国人非常崇敬乔治·华盛顿总统。那么这些人当时就向美国捐赠了一个石碑，就是为了纪念华盛顿总统。目前这个石碑已经镶嵌在华盛顿纪念碑里面，石碑上刻有当时的一名中国官员形容这一名伟大的将军和政治家，他们把他称为人中豪杰。
And across the centuries, this mutual esteem grew into a relationship that reflected the tremendous talent and potential of our two people. Chinese workers helped lay the railroad tracks that connected our Atlantic coast to the Pacific. American travelers to China helped spread literacy and modern medicine, and at the request of China's ambassador, it was President Theodore Roosevelt who provided the funds to establish President Xi's alma mater, Tsinghua University.
在过去几百年当中，这种相互的尊敬已经成为了一段全新的关系。这段关系可以说反映出我们两国人民之间巨大的潜力以及我们的努力和智慧。中国工人当初帮助美国建设了我们的铁路路轨，连通了美国的大西岸和太平洋沿海地区。美国当时早期出访中国的美国人也帮助中国提升了识字率，并且引入了现代医学，并且应时任中国驻华大使的请求，罗斯福总统也专门提供了资金，成立了习主席的母校清华大学。
As allies in World War II, President Franklin Roosevelt's mentions of the brave people of China, that's what they were, drew loud cheers in his speeches in the United States, and everybody loved what he had to say, just as many Chinese now love basketball and blue jeans. Chinese restaurants in America today outnumber the 5 largest fast food chains in the United States, all combined. That's a pretty big statement.
那么，作为二战期间的盟国， 罗斯福总统在美国的多次演讲当中提到了勇敢的中国人民。正如当前许多中国人非常喜欢篮球和穿蓝色的牛仔裤，在美国目前的中餐厅的数量要比美国前5大快餐连锁店的总的店面还要多。
This bond of commerce and respect that stretches back 250 years is the foundation for a future that benefits both of our nations. The American and Chinese people share much in common. We value hard work, we value courage and achievement, we love our families, and we love our countries. Together we have the chance to draw on these values to create a future of greater prosperity, cooperation, and happiness, and peace for our children. We love our children. This region and the world is a special world with the two of us united and together.
那么至于商业当中的纽带以及我们的相互尊重，可以说追溯到250年前，是我们将要构建的未来的基础。至于未来将会惠及我们两国的人民，美国人民和中国人民有许多的共同点，我们都崇尚劳动，我们都崇尚勇气和成就，我们都非常爱我们的家庭，我们也爱我们的国家。我们两国一道，我们将有机会基于我们共同的价值观，创造出一个更加繁荣、基于合作、幸福、和平的未来，为我们的子孙、为本地区以及全世界造福。
Thank you again, President Xi, for this beautiful welcome. And tonight it is my honor to extend an invitation to you and Madam Peng to visit us at the White House this September 24th. And we look forward to it. And I'd now like to raise a glass and propose a toast to the rich and enduring ties between the American and Chinese people. It's a very special relationship. And I want to thank you again. This has been an amazing period of time. Thank you, President Xi.
那么再一次感谢习主席，感谢这一美好的欢迎。那么今天晚上，我也想借此机会向您以及彭女士提出邀请，于9月24号邀请你们出访白宫。那我也希望，针对美国人民和中国人民之间深厚的以及持久的友谊，我提议我们进行举杯。那么我们这两国关系是非常独特的一项关系。
Thank you, everybody.
感谢。
Thank you, everybody, very much.
感谢。
So those are the visuals coming in from the state banquet that Xi hosted for American President Donald Trump. And US President Donald Trump, in fact, described the Chinese president as his friend in the opening remarks at the state banquet that Xi hosted for the American leader. And those are the visuals coming in at this point in time. US President Donald Trump also said that the relationship between the two countries went back to the founding of the US, describing the early American traders who visited China and were described by the Chinese as the new people. And he said today bilateral ties were among the most consequential consequential in the world. In fact, earlier we heard from the Chinese president as well, who said that the two countries should become partners and not rivals. What do these statements really mean for the entire world, given the kind of geopolitical scenario that we are facing right now? Let's try and understand from our guests who are joining us on the broadcast. We have Neeraj A. Sharma, who is an international relations expert. Also joining us is Andrew K.P. Leung, international and independent China strategist. Thank you very much, both of you. Appreciate you joining us here on Times Now. Andrew, to you first. What do you make of what Trump had to say, and before that, what Xi Jinping, the Chinese president, had to say? What is the significance of the points that they made? One called the other a friend, and Chinese president saying that the two countries should become partners, not rivals.
Well, that's all very well. I mean, these are the commonly accepted principles. And then it's interesting that also the reference is made to the Nixon visit, which changed dramatically changed the relationship between the United States at the time and China, which was recently founded the People's Republic of China. But then a lot of water has passed under the bridge, whereas before the United States thought it would be beneficial to bring China into the World Trade Organization and trying to incorporate China into the world trading system. And that, of course, helped China grow very rapidly. But then at that time, China was very poor, only producing Nike shirts and cheap stuff. Then, as China grew bigger, China was seen to be eating Americans' lunch, producing high-tech goods and also growing in international influence, which is seen to be a threat to American dominance. And so the age of pivot to Asia started under President Clinton, and then further on deepening into a full-front confrontation under President Trump's 1.0, lumping tariffs on China with the aim of containing China's rise. So these structural differences still remain. But of course, there are areas of cooperation. And then at the moment, President Trump wants to seek a rebalance, or rather a pause in this relationship, so that he can regroup. And also what he wants President Xi's help to pressurize Iran to surrender to Americans' demands. And of course, he wants China to buy a lot of these big-ticket items like soybeans, Boeing aircraft, because they all would help his midterm elections prospects, because these are very important purchases affecting his key constituencies.
Right. Very interesting points you've made, Andrew, and we'll talk about the impact this visit could really have on the ongoing conflict in the Middle East, whether something is going to happen as far as the war is concerned because of this visit or not. But before that, let me go across to, in fact, Anil Pandey, who is joining us live from Beijing at this point in time, tracking all the developments for us from Beijing. Anil, we've seen, niceties and very pleasant words being used by both the leaders for each other. But then the message was very clear on Taiwan, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very true that we understand before Trump arrived China, we have been following Chinese media. I mean, Chinese state media was definitely showing this kind of statement that Taiwan is definitely part of China. So America should understand, America should not sell its weapons to Taiwan, because China cannot compromise with this issue. So definitely, although they are having state banquet, they are having very nice words, but China is very firm on its agenda, or China knows how to deal with Trump. That's why we have seen a very different kind of Donald Trump today. And we also understand that China is not 30 or 40 years back China. China is the second largest economy, or before coming to China, even Trump himself said we are the two strongest nations on the earth. So it means Donald Trump is definitely on the way or wants to win China. Win.
Right. All right. Thank you very much for the moment for joining us with your inputs on this. And viewers, we also heard US President Donald Trump, in fact, inviting President Xi to pay a return visit to the White House. He's invited Xi to White House in September, and he, in fact, mentioned a specific date, 24th of September, as the date of their next summit in Washington. And he's also invited China's First Lady to join the Chinese president on that particular visit. So clearly, the visuals are extremely important. And this is happening at a time when India is also hosting the foreign ministers of BRICS, the members of BRICS. So clearly, very, very important meetings are happening here as well in India. And we'll be tracking this story closely ahead as well. For now, slipping into a very, very short break. We'll be back with lots more. Stay with us.